What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This one in particular is on another Bastian build, this one titled the Centurion. Bastian is one of my favorite companions first and foremost. I really enjoy playing with him, but this build in particular, as I was playing around with his gear and his weapons and everything of that nature, I literally had a blast with this build. But I'll get to that in 1 second. Before I get into the build itself, I do want to say that I do have a playlist as a Let's Play for the Elder Scrolls Online. For those of you guys who are interested, a playlist to that channel is a link to that channel is going to be in the description down below, where you'll be able to find that playlist there. While you're there, do me a huge favor. Drop a subscribe to that channel because it really does help that channel grow. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this. But first things first, if you're excited for this build, do me a huge favor, drop a like on this video. Also subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, because it really does help this channel grow. So with that being said, let's get into it. Alright, so first things first, we're going to be starting off with his skill set. Right off the bat, we're starting off with Scorching Strike, which is, as a matter of fact, an Ardent Flame ability. The very last one on the Ardent Warrior skill line, which reads, Bastian slashes an enemy with flame, dealing 10,626 flame damage and an additional 15,936 flame damage over 8 seconds. So not only is this doing upfront damage at 10,626 damage, but it's also doing a damage over time for 8 seconds of a massive 15,936 damage over that 8-second period, and it ends up being a pretty powerful dot on top of a pretty decent upfront damage. So definitely a good skill to have. The only downfall that I can see from having this skill is the fact that it has a 16-second cooldown. Now you can put that down a little bit by using quicken traits, but I figured that it's not the only dot that I have on this build, so it ends up actually balancing out fine, because every single skill on this build pretty much for the most part has different cooldown periods, so he's constantly dropping a skill all the time, and you guys will see that when we get into the world boss fight later on in this video. So moving on, Sunder. Sunder is in the weapon of the two-handed skill line. Sunder is slices all nearby enemies in front of them with a mighty swing, dealing 5,313 physical damage and an additional 5,308 physical damage over an 8-second period. This is pretty much the identical ability as a Scorching Strike, except in the weapon form and a little bit less powerful. But having this in conjunction with Scorching Strike ends up being pretty powerful nonetheless, because of its initial 5,313 physical damage, and on top of that you also get a 5,308 physical damage over the same 8-period second. So over 8 seconds you're going to be doing a pretty massive amount of damage over time with these two abilities, and I think it works out pretty great. And it also has a pretty average cooldown at 12 seconds, so they kind of offset a little bit, and you guys will see it once we get into the world boss, that he consistently is always using some of these abilities. But moving on, the next one is Staggering Swing. Bastian slams an enemy with an upward swing and sends them flying, dealing 10,626 physical damage, stunning them for 2.5 seconds and knocking them back for 4 meters. So not only does this do upfront damage at 10,626 physical damage right up front, but it also has a little bit of utility behind this this skill as well, by doing that stunning for 2.5 seconds. That will allow you or any DPS in your team to just drop the hammer on them essentially for 2.5 seconds, just all no holds barred straight damage to the enemy, which 2.5 seconds can be a lot of time for someone who can really do a lot of burst damage. So this ends up being a very good ability, just hands down. Moving on. Fiery Flail. This is a staple in the Dragon Knight class set or toolkit. Of course, for you, if you're playing as a Dragon Knight, it's your whip, right? Your flame whip. Very cool ability to say the least. And of course, Bastian also has a variant as well in the name of Fiery Flail. Fiery Flail lashes an enemy with flame, dealing 10,626 flame damage and setting them off balance for 7 seconds. So similar to the staggering swing, Fiery Flail does 10,626 flame damage right up front and also sets them off balance for 7 seconds. So this ends up, and again, same concept as the 2 dots or whatever. This does 16 seconds of a cooldown, this does 12 seconds. So right off of the first, batch that you drop that these two it'll be back to back. So essentially it's not gonna really proc the off balance because you're knocking them down and stunning them, right? So you can't really have them both at the same time. However, on the second time that he goes around all of his skills, he will definitely be setting them off balance and then knocking off balance and stuff like that. So you'll be seeing a lot more utility off of him the longer the fight drags on. But this ends up being a pretty good ability nonetheless, with dealing 10,626 flame damage right off bat, and of course having that utility of off balance. And as far as the regular bar goes, the last ability is Kindle. Kindle is a pretty good heal because it has a super fast cooldown of 8 seconds. You're gonna see him utilizing this quite often if you don't have a taunt or anything like that, because he will, frankly speaking, consistently be taking damage, therefore he's always gonna be healing. So basically what this does is that he launches a searing fireball at himself or at an ally to cauterize their wounds, healing for 8,700 health. And he only uses this under 75% health, so whenever he's actually taking damage, he'll be using this skill quite frequently, allowing him to stay alive for that much longer. Now, the way I designed this build is so that he can tag along with you in a small group, or if you want to just solo a tank or something, he can frankly do the damage that your tank cannot. Therefore, he ends up being your damage while you contain taunt and stuff like that. So this ends up being a very good heal for him nonetheless. And of course, last but not least, is the ultimate, which doesn't need any introduction, Unleashed Rage. As I've said before on all of Bastion's builds, because Bastion and, well, companions in general only have one ultimate, right? So the Bastion has Unleashed Rage, which deals a massive 15,939 flame damage to enemies and stuns them for 4 seconds, while also releasing 4 lines of fire in a cross formation that deals an additional 3,984 flame damage to every enemy hit. So it does a massive amounts of damage in a form of an explosion that deals fire damage, and out of that explosion has 4 lines in a cross formation that comes out of that explosion, and every enemy that's caught in the crosshairs of that will get an additional 3,984 damage. This is a great ability for DPS, for up close and personal DPS. Bastion is one of the companions that because of his ultimate, struggles in the DPS department, only in terms of ranged, only because of this ultimate. Because this ultimate is 100% designed for him to be up close and personal to the enemy. So once he's up close and personal, which this is an up close and personal type of build, he will be taking full advantage of this ultimate. So therefore, it ends up being a pretty good ability nonetheless. So let's move on to our gear. In terms of gear, I say this in every single video, I like to mimic your personal builds for Bastion or any companion build, right? So I like to go with 5 sets, 2 5-piece sets and a 2-piece set similar to you have two 5-piece, sets and a monster set. So taking that into consideration, the first 5-piece set that I'm going to be rocking for him is the Companion's Gear all purple in aggressive, because this increases your damage done by 1.7% for each item equipped, and of course this is going to be all in medium because your passives in the medium increases damage. I'll actually show you. Medium flexibility increases damage done by 1% for each piece. Well, I mean, I guess this is kind of ruining what else I have on, but it's okay. For every medium armor equipped, current bonus 7%, decreases the cooldown of roll dodge by 5%, and for each medium armor equipped, current bonus 35%, cooldown 5.2 seconds. So this ends up being a good I guess trait to have on Bastion, or any build that has that is designed to do DPS. So if going forward, it's pretty obvious to just kind of predict that it's going to be some aggressive traits, because it is almost imperative to run aggressive traits on any DPS build. So because taking that into the consideration, the 2-piece set that I decided to go with is, again, medium with aggressive. So that's why I have the 7-piece, because I put it all on the body, increasing damage done, which ends up being imperative, right? So that leaves the final question. If we only have a 7%, 7 pieces, we already have the 7 pieces of aggressive, what do we have on jewelries and weapons? Well, for jewelry and weapons, we actually have the focus traits, all purpled out, of course. And what this does is that it increases the critical strike rating by X amount of number, right? For the jewelry, it is 569 for all 3 pieces. And for the weapon, since it technically is a 2-piece, it's 1,138. So this does a lot of crit damage on top of your physical or your damage done period that your aggressive trait's doing. So he ends up being pretty strong, to say the least. An alternative to this, you can run all 100% aggressive. It'll be very viable as well. So that's something to take into consideration. But yeah, let's go over to fashion. In terms of fashion, I am rocking an outfit or a costume called the Centurion Dress Armor. In terms of dyes, for the first lot, of course, anything that has to do with Imperial, I kind of really like the idea of having Cyrodiilic Steel, because it's a fantastic looking steel, first and foremost, but it kind of fits the Imperial theme, right? I'm also rocking Blood Gold, because Blood Gold is a beautiful dye, in my opinion. And then, of course, last but not least is Red Diamond. In terms of outfit, don't mind the actual body pieces. Obviously, you can't see them if you have a costume set. But if you want to rock this or whatever, then there you go. You have Cyrodiilic Steel, Master Gold, and Red Diamond. But as far as the weapon goes, it is the same idea as the costume: Cyrodiilic Steel, Blood Gold, and Red Diamond. So with that being said, let's go ahead and check out what Bastion has to offer in terms of a world boss. So there you have it, guys. Like I said, this build is not really designed for him to go toe-to-toe with large enemies. As a matter of fact, really no companion can really hang with some of the big bosses toe-to-toe, right? The only exception to that would probably be a tank build, because that's what they're designed to do. Companions are designed to be assistants in the damage department to you. So therefore, I decided to throw in a light heal for him so that he can actually be a companion to someone who is primarily a tank. However, if you are a DPS yourself, you might be able to take advantage of Bastian as a two-handed companion. This build I really thoroughly enjoyed. He did the job exactly the way I needed him to do it. Therefore, this build was a complete and total success. If you enjoyed this build, guys, do me a huge favor, drop a like on this video. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, because it really does help this channel grow. So with that being said, catch you guys in the next one. Deuces.